Thanks so much for joining us this beautiful afternoon. It is absolutely stunning out. And so those of us who get to sit outside, enjoy the meeting. That's a lucky thing. So I am Dawn Plummer. I'm the Executive Director of the Food Policy Council. I have a short report and it's mostly going to just be to update folks on various transitions that are happening at the Food Policy Council. We've entered into what I believe Josiah has coined a season of opportunity. It's such an exciting time for the city of Pittsburgh. There are so many challenges in the world, and we have such a strong network in the food system space. And so it's really a time for the Pittsburgh Food Policy Council to look a bit inward, do some retooling, refreshing, planning, and setting out strong as we continue to implement the Greater Pittsburgh Food Action Plan, the region's first food action plan that we worked on together and released in 2020, and that we've been working to implement and steward going forward. And so as we enter this new phase and period of opportunity, I have made the decision to step aside as the executive director. I've been in this role for 8 years, which feels like a long time in that role. And I'm really excited about working with the board and our executive director search committee to find a new ED who is energized and excited to jump in and lead us into the next phase of our work. And so I wanted to share that. We have a really fantastic executive director search committee pulled together that I want to see if I can find the list to share with folks. So the idea was to take volunteers from our executive team of our board, some members of the board that are rolling off, as well as some external partners. Oh, and of course I had it queued up and now it's not here. Finding our list. Here it is. So we have Jen England, who is chairing our search committee, who's here with us. She's our board secretary. She's chairing the ED search committee. We have Mim Seidel, who's our outgoing board co-chair. We have Denny McManus, who is also a board co-chair. We have Chef Claudie Pierre, who's an outgoing board member. We have Zina Scott, who is a Pittsburgh Food Equity Ambassador. We have Nick Goodfellow, who is a board member, and then we have Rochelle Jackson, who's with the Black Women's Policy Agenda, and that is a really fantastic crew to be helping us identify our next ED. And so I wanted to just put out a call for all of our friends and partners to help us find that person. This is an important role. I don't say that because it's my role. I just say that to say there's a lot of information and opportunity in this role. And it would be really fabulous if we had someone who was, that was a great match for us and someone that we were all very excited to be working with. So please feel free to share that announcement. I can drop the link to where that job description is. And if anyone has any questions, let us know. But we've been spreading it far and wide, and we're really hoping to cast a broad net and move that process forward. Also, I've been reporting out on our strategic planning process. Given both the ED transition that we're undergoing, we're also, and you'll hear a little bit more about this, we're in the process of a board election. Every 2 years we have a board election season, and we're right in the thick of it right now. And so we decided to postpone our strategic planning until we have onboarded a new ED. We have our new board after the election, our board in place, and so that we can really hit the ground running with that strong, refreshed leadership team. So I wanted to just share that the strategic planning will be coming more at the end of 22 and 2023. And the rest of the updates you can find in my report. There's a lot of programmatic and advocacy updates in there. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I'm going to leave it at that for now.
Great, thanks, Dawn. And I think now we're doing a deep dive into the Gainey transition report, and I'm assuming somebody's going to reintroduce Josiah.
Yep, that's me. thank you so much, Josiah. We have Josiah Gilliam with the mayor's office with us. And we wanted to when we have our member meetings every other month, we like to dedicate a portion of our agenda to what we call a deep dive. This is an opportunity to really engage in conversation, hear from an invited guest. And so what we'll be doing today is I'll be turning things over to Sam Applefield of our Food Policy Council staff team. He's going to be sharing some of the findings that we have based on, we're just coming out of, or I guess we're 6 months out from the mayoral election. We now have Mayor Gainey as the mayor of Pittsburgh, and there was a robust recommendations report released by his transition team that went through an extensive engagement period that many of us were involved in, and so Sam has done some analysis of where there's overlap between our work, that work that's laid out in the Greater Pittsburgh Food Action Plan, and overlap with the recommendations made to Mayor Gainey and his team. So Sam's going to share a few minutes on that. And then secondly, we'll open it up for Josiah to offer some reflections from his vantage point in the mayor's office. And then we want to, and I'll pose a few questions, but then we want to open it up for Q&A. And so I'm just flagging timekeeping on that point. I will keep my eyes on the chat, or if someone starts waving to tell me that our time is rounding up. So without any further ado, we'll pass it to Sam.
All right, thanks very much, Don. Yeah, thanks everyone for being here this afternoon. I will, as Don mentioned, be very quick here. Just want to share a little bit of, to make sure we all have kind of a shared background of, as Don mentioned, the Mayor Gainey's transition report and its alignment with the Food Action Plan and kind of ongoing work of the Food Policy Council. So hopefully y'all can see my screen here just to get us started. I'm just going to jump into it. So the transition team that that Mayor Gainey kind of had completed a transition report on May 12th. So it was just over a month or so ago that this report came out. There was a lot of kind of community engagement and involvement in this report. I think, at the Food Policy Council, we were kind of pushing out opportunities for folks to attend listening sessions and add ideas into the online forum. And I'm sure Josiah can speak more to exactly how that process worked. But the report's organized into these 4 areas: equitable development, education and workforce development, infrastructure and environment, and community health and safety. And so then within each of those 4 areas, there are lots of different recommendations. And so this slide just gives a little peek of what the report looks like. There's also the link to the report there. If you want to check it out, I can put that in the chat afterwards as well. But yeah, like I said, each of these 4 main areas, there's a range of, I want to say 8 to 15 or so recommendations for each of them. So it's a total of I think close to 80 different recommendations that were delivered to the mayor. And so we were excited. We were happy to see that there was really a lot of alignment between these recommendations that the transition team put forward and the work that we had all collectively done to develop the Greater Pittsburgh Food Action Plan. So just to show what some of that alignment looks like, I know there's a lot of text on this slide, but under equitable development, there are recommendations about small business development, particularly, and small business development and access to properties, particularly for Black and Latinx entrepreneurs and small minority business owners. It doesn't specify specifically food entrepreneurs, but we know in the Food Action Plan there are recommendations, similarly, just speaking specifically about food entrepreneurship. In education and workforce development, There's ideas to create an Office of Education Opportunity that would really kind of build out partnerships and engagement with PPS and and a variety of other partners, as well as kind of some of the workforce development pieces, which include the culinary arts. So we see that there. Community health and safety. There's the recommendations about creating public health and food justice initiatives, and also continuing collaborations with the Allegheny County Health Department. And this recommendation specifically talked about the REACH partnership, which is racial and ethnic approaches to community health, which the Food Policy Council and a number of our other partners have been involved with for the last couple of years. And then, so finally, infrastructure and environment also talks about ecological health and soil testing, things like that, support and expand healthy food infrastructure, and then a stronger relationship with Port Authority and public transit. So yeah, a lot of recommendations, again, speaking to a lot of the issues that many of us on the call are actively kind of involved with. And just to highlight a few of the specific asks or ways in which we see these kind of recommendations connecting to some of the day-to-day work that that we're all kind of involved with here. I don't know, I have this effect that it's fading in and out. I didn't realize that was on the slideshow. But so one, we have the effort to create a Pittsburgh Food Justice Fund, which we've been in conversation with Josiah about previously, but see that as aligning with a few of these recommendations. The Good Food Pittsburgh Coalition that Sarah has been convening, and I think some folks on this call have participated in, it's connected to that effort to engage more in kind of partnerships around schools. And then we have the Fair Fares for Full Recovery campaign, creating a low-income fare program, related to working with Port Authority and improving public transit. And then just kind of a catch-all, I guess, of fostering just deeper relationships with this network of folks here who are involved in a number of all of these other strategies and recommendations put forward by the transition team. So I think that's about all I wanted to share. Again, just wanted to make sure folks were aware of that transition report and the overlap with some of our ongoing work. And again, I'll put the link to the report in the chat for folks here.
Thank you, Sam. So I had provided Josiah with some questions, and as I pasted them in, they seem very verbose, but just to go over them to kind of orient your remarks. Josiah, I had asked 6 months into the Gainey administration, can you share with our members this evening more about the mayor's vision for Pittsburgh, specifically how it relates to food and food systems, and then where the administration sees food and food systems initiatives living and operating, and then how best for the PFPC members and partners and community to collaborate with the administration on these critical issues. So those were some of the kind of orienting questions. And if I'd like to invite you to share some responses and feedback, and then we can get into some discussion with Q&A with the rest of our folks on the line.
Thank you so much, Dawn and Sam and the entire board and all of the folks on the call. Good to be with you again. For those of you that I haven't met or who aren't familiar with me, my name is Josiah Gilliam, as you can see or have heard, and I'm the Special Initiatives Coordinator in the Mayor's Office. And I want to start with gratitude because you all have been not only supportive, but very active and communicative with us in these first 6 months. And it really has led to a sense of excitement around what's possible in this space and all of the groundwork that you all have done around the action plan, articulating objectives like the Food Justice Fund, I think are really illuminating. And we're excited to be alongside with you for this ride, this adventure. So look, 6 months into the Gainey administration, a lot has happened, I think is fair to say. And I think that the transition process really kind of helps answer that first question. I think the mayor and by extension the team are really thinking about all of these priorities collaboratively. We want to be good partners in community. We want to be good partners in impact areas. And we want to achieve this vision that the mayor talks about so consistently, where Pittsburgh is a place where all can be welcomed, safe, and have the ability to thrive. And so I think it's no surprise that there is so much relevance to food insecurity, and food equity throughout the recommendations that were given, that were yielded through the transition report. We all know it, meeting basic needs, but also improving the quality of accessibility and service with an equity lens, and also leaning into the differentiators we have in the city and region that put us in a position to be successful is really exciting. As far as it relates to food and food systems, and I appreciate you pasting the questions back in the chat, Dawn. What we feel like is that, and this is, I mean, you all have really helped shape the region's thinking about this, but certainly ours, is that there's a chance to build and to foster a robust food system in the city of Pittsburgh, and then more specifically down to the regional and neighborhood level, food systems that really meet needs, and from a sustainability standpoint, allow us to think about a complete phase shift in this conversation. I remember one of my true first job in the city was with a Meals on Wheels organization, and you're delivering meals directly to, in many cases, homebound, nutritionally at-risk seniors. But it felt like I was speaking a different language in community meetings and with partners than they were familiar with. And I think COVID has really impacted this reality, but I am hearing a lot more of that language and concepts around food and access and services than ever before. And so this idea of, it used to be food deserts, now it's a food apartheid. The idea of the role of systems and decisions over time, and then how we might be able to reverse or strike in a different direction is really compelling. And as for where it lives or operates, it's kind of a twofold question, right? So the city does some things related to food. We have our food summer program, some adopt a lot kind of reuse programs. We work with partners to a certain extent too. With delivery, we were pretty active during COVID too with getting meals to folks. But we recognize that this is an ecosystem and that there's a very robust network of organizations and individual stakeholders and community partners and urban farmers and community leaders that have been active, that are active, and that are subject matter experts, already active, already in many cases successful, or already at least very clear about what success can look like in the space. So we want to be a good partner. We want to help the region row together, and we want to draw attention to what's happening in this space because of its across the board relevance. I was in a conversation just today with someone from DHS who was talking with us about some of the moves they're going to be making related to violence prevention and intervention. And we spent a good portion of that conversation talking about conditions in communities. It'll be no surprise to folks on this call that whether it's violence or people's ability to be socially, economically mobile, it's about needs being met at the community level. It's about the built environment. It's about the environment in general. It's about access. It's about transit. It's all these things. And so, food equity, food justice is a really exciting nexus. And it makes a lot of sense for us to do whatever we can to shine light on what's working and the opportunities ahead of us. And as for the PFPC members and ongoing collaboration, please consider us ongoing allies. And I'd love to think of this as an ongoing dialogue. The city and the mayor's office is really getting up to speed here. Within the mayor's office specifically, I can say we've been hiring and adding more structure and figuring out how we want to play in various impact areas. And so to have this relationship even so quickly in the new administration has been really terrific. It's helped us learn more, make better connections. We've had some meetings within the city with various folks that do stuff with food that hadn't happened before. We've been part of some broader meetings that Dawn's been very helpful with. I've started to meet with some folks on this call separately to learn more about their part of the ecosystem or things that excite them or that are important to them. And I think we're headed in the right direction. And in terms of the short term, well, let me just step back very quickly. So the transition report just came out relatively recently. The administration is now going through and assessing from a priority and from a budgetary perspective what it would take to execute on the priorities. And of course, there are dozens and dozens and dozens of priorities, and many of them do have funding attached to them. And so we're trying to understand what's possible. And then from like a short-term, mid-term, long-term perspective, city funding, foundation, county, corporate community perspective, what might be possible. And we expect to have some more answers coming here soon. Some of the more rigorous and public-facing conversations related to that are, and I'm going to put a link in the chat here, the operating budget forums, which are coming up. Now, the link that I'm going to put in the chat here describes the process, but it has an incorrect date. The dates for this are actually upcoming, so be on the lookout, and I can make sure this gets to Dawn directly for the upcoming budget forum dates and times. It's exciting because it's not just a Zoom meeting. I think we have enough of those as it is. But we've been using this community engagement platform called Engage PGH. I first got introduced to this. It was used to a certain extent during the transition process, but we used it to great effect in neighborhood plans through city planning to increase access, but also from a transparency and process standpoint, allow all kinds of stakeholders to engage, no pun intended, or quite literally, where the comments are just cataloged and folks can respond in real time and all of these things. So you'll have a chance not just to talk, in a rigorous fashion with officials, but you also have a chance to input, thoughts and recommendations directly, and then that'll lead into that's part of the formal budgeting process going into this fall. And if I can just kind of articulate the kind of like the calendar, the mayor comes in to office in January. We have the transition recommendations. We have some ARP funding that the city got that we're also assessing in terms of guidance that was handed down in terms of what we can and cannot spend on. There's the budget process, and then in the fall, the mayor gets to kind of stand in front of us, stand in front of the city and say, and here is my budget. Here's how we will move and allocate city resources in the near term and in the next year as far as the city's budget goes. So those are the upcoming kind of short-term opportunities for folks to be directly engaged. Dawn and other stakeholders have shared with us the action plan and things like that. So that's been on the team's desk, so to speak. We're continuing to have conversation. I had a conversation today in the mayor's office about the space and ways that we can create additional kind of briefs and summaries to get everyone on the same page. Because as you all know, not just in the mayor's office, but throughout the city, there's a kind of reorganization and a restructuring. And things like the Food Justice Fund and the Food Action Plan are helpful to help understand like where we can lean in with community and where we can be helpful and where we can kind of all row together. So let me just stop there. I have a tendency to kind of ramble on when I'm excited about that and about things. And I'm excited about this space, not just because I have somewhat of a background, coming into the city and then working, I see Ms. Zinna on the call, in Homewood, the Homewood Children's Village, where a lot of these issues are top of mind, and there's a lot of activity, as you all know. But because, again, like Dawn mentioned, I really do feel like we're in a season of opportunity in this space. And the mayor's been very clear that food equity and food justice, as well as just kind of broad themes of equity and justice, are going to be critical to the administration. His consistent communications have borne that out. You look at the recommendations, even though that's an independent process, they're bearing that out as well. And I'm excited to see what's possible, and just want to actually end this part of it by saying that please consider me an ally. If there's ways that I can be of assistance or helpful to you, I am happy to do that. I get very excited about the idea of storytelling and community partner highlights and things that the city may be able to help with collaboratively with partners. We know there's a bunch of activity. We don't want to duplicate efforts. We don't want to muddy the waters in any way whatsoever. But there's an appetite, certainly, no pun intended, a personal one, to be creative, to highlight what's happening here, to encourage collaboration, to highlight calls to action, to get folks involved, to better connect people, to network leads, to do all the things. So feel free to reach out. Some of you already have. I've had meetings with some of you, like I said. I welcome that because I want to be as good of and as efficacious an ally as I can be within the mayor's office and with you all in community. So I'll stop there and answer any questions, Dawn, that there might be in the group, and we'll go from there.
Great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your sharing your reflections and your openness. And obviously this is an ongoing conversation as we continue to do this work together. We have about 15 minutes. At 4:45, we're going to shift our agenda to the next point, which is introducing our candidates for the board. So we have some time. I want to invite everyone to share, if you're able, in the chat if you have questions. If you're not able to share in the chat, please unmute yourself and share your question. And I'm hoping to take kind of 3 questions at a time, and see if Josiah has responses. So want to open up the floor to 2 questions. And I'm ready with one if you all want to chew on it for a minute.
Oh, I have a question.
Oh, bingo, go.
Want us to chat them in, or if you want us to ask them verbally?
You're fine, go for it.
What is it that determines the decision as to who is selected for the board?
So we'll get into the Food Policy Council board conversation in the next section of the agenda, but right now we're gonna just invite questions for Josiah and the mayor's office.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean,
This
go
is
for it.
Pastor Love.
Go ahead,
This is
Pastor.
Pastor Love. Yeah, I have a question. How far up is the on priority list is food justice with the mirror? I mean, addressing the food apartheid. Is it the same as housing, workforce development, and some of the other traditional things that we know that goes on in the city? Has the mayor and you guys at the mayor's office decided that food should be a priority, not just an appetite, not just a dialogue going on, but a priority?
Yeah, I appreciate the question, Pastor Love, and hello, good to be in yet another meeting with you. In fact, that first job I had with the Meals on Wheels organization, I ended up in Hazelwood, and we've gotten a grant from, this is kind of sidebar for the group, to build up the program in Hazelwood and in the surrounding area. So attended a lot of meetings kind of talking about this area at those times. So it's kind of a personal full circle moment or journey moment for me to hear that question. A critical priority, Pastor Love. And of course, there's a Venn diagram of importance there. I won't say in terms of like ranking them 1, 2, or 3, so to speak. But the mayor's been very consistent, about it. For example, he talks a lot about the pathways, this idea of pathways to prosperity for young people in the workforce development context. How can we be practical about presenting opportunities and connecting them? Well, you can't do that without talking about conditions and community. You can't talk about that without addressing basic needs. We're talking about services that are available at the community level, within schools, et cetera, et cetera. So look for us to not just be engaging in ongoing dialogue, but active partners. But again, we do recognize that the city only does so much when it comes to food in this space. And so it's about deepening and perhaps expanding impact there as far as our own operations, but really acknowledging, this group and others in the ecosystem that do their own thing and helping us all grow together. And that's why I personally, without speaking too formally on behalf of the administration, get very excited about this idea of a food justice fund, or rather just the idea of building and fostering a robust food system at the city, because we could have, essentially eliminate a lot of these ongoing kind of generational issues related to food insecurity if we're successful, successful in that. And it's a chance to engage with partners throughout the region, engage with our cities about what works well, et cetera, et cetera. It's very exciting. So anyways, a high level priority, Pastor Love, and I look forward to engaging with you and the rest of the folks on it moving forward.
Thank you. And it looks like Ken shared another question asking if you could share.
Thank you. One more time.
Oh, sure. Sorry. Go ahead, Pastor.
No, I was just going to ask along the same lines, realizing in the urban communities that we are suffering with the lack of grocery stores, and not just farming, but actual grocery stores. Does your traditional plan include addressing putting grocery stores in the back in the urban communities?
And maybe, I
So-
don't know if you can parlay that your response, Josiah, to also, because I think it's maybe potentially connected to Ken's question in the chat.
So, I guess I should be careful to articulate that the mayor's office at this point doesn't have like our own definitive plan. For example, Pastor Love, grocery stores in urban settings, or where there's incidences or examples of food apartheid. Recently the city has been supportive of projects that do just that. I think about the neighborhood plan in Oakland, for example, a long-term community objective to have a grocery store. You can figure it out through that planning process. A grocery store, community grocery store going into the Hill District, here shortly. That's the city being supportive and helping make connections. But of course, access and availability of good food sources, at the community level is a primary part of that idea of a sustainable food system and an adequate, food system. And I remember being in conversations when the food purchasing co-op in Hazel was getting started, or the first farmers market, I think it was Tecumseh or something like that, was getting started, and this acknowledgement that there was only a mini mart or a Rite Aid and these other things. So certainly at the neighborhood level would like to know at a certain point that that's been solved. That there's access, ideally proximate, but then you think about conversations like with Pittsburgh Regional Transit and PGH, can there be access via different modes of transit or delivery services or additional services rather to get food to people, et cetera, et cetera. So, ideally, hopefully in the future at the neighborhood level, there's all that's required. But in the meantime, how can we figure out access and accessibility, affordability, and all of that is also something to consider. And then the question in the chat with the American Rescue Plan funds, and is there active consideration for creating a food justice fund? Yeah, so it's similar to the recommendations in general. So what had happened was the previous administration had allocated the funds before they left office. And so there was some discretion that the administration had coming in to look at some potential reallocations, but then the federal government handed down new guidelines for how those funds could and couldn't be spent, which has led to another level of assessments on what is in line with those with that new guidance, and then of what remains, what could be allocated or what priorities could then be supported, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that the transition recommendations are being blended into that active consideration. The Food Justice Fund being one of the requested kind of community priorities that has like a number associated with it. So I don't have like a priority update for you, but it's one of the better examples, one of the more robust examples that are being considered, I would say, because some folks, yeah, let me just stop and leave it at that. It's part of the ongoing assessments that the administration is working on.
Thanks so much. We have a couple more minutes. Are there any other questions that folks would like to share?
Question just about, Josiah, you had flagged just the city's role with food initiatives and the, where impact can be had and what the limits are, but has the administration talked at all about plans to partner or coordinate with like PPS or the county on the food work that they do either through like school meals or jail meals or other summer meals programs? Is forming, strengthened partnerships with those two entities a point of discussion at all?
Literally in the one I had this afternoon, just by way of example. And those two entities mentioned specifically, right? And this is where I get, very excited. Excited because, the mayor and by extension the team is really thinking about all of this collaboratively. And we know that there's, regional realities and also regional entities that are active here. And to the extent we can, we want to have good working relationships with all of the stakeholders. So yeah, be on the lookout for more of that, and hopefully some announcements coming soon.
And there are two other questions that came in. One is, what are other issues you're working on? And the other is there a benefit for the group communicating the connection between food insecurity and community violence, which is a primary focus of the administration?
Yeah, and so Dennis, what other issues am I working on personally? Is that what that means?
Yes.
Well,
What else do you have in your portfolio? What keeps you busy these days?
yeah, no shortage of things, as you may imagine. But I appreciate the question. So I joined the mayor's office in 2019, working on what was called the My Brother's Keeper initiative. It's a collective impact initiative with a strong initial focus on Black men and boys. So the new administration, the mayor and chief asked me to continue that work. We're looking at rebooting it under the mayor's leadership, as you may imagine, with the first Black male mayor of Pittsburgh, to really deepen those efforts. A lot of relevance, though. I spent a lot of time in that initiative talking about basic needs and conditions in community. But they've also asked me to take more of a direct focus on workforce development, especially in the talent conversation. How are we attracting and retaining diverse talent? And then also, how are we engaging with local talent to make sure that there's pathways to the prosperity is what the mayor likes to say, but to the ecosystem of opportunities that are present in the city and in the region, which are manifold. And so there's a bit of that. Food equity, I was asked to focus on food equity, to get active in that space and help brief the administration on what's happening, what's possible there. And then in the office, a little bit of youth and education work, obviously, as you may imagine, the Venn diagram there. And then finally, for me personally, they've asked me to take a focus on downtown stakeholders and conditions. As you all know, there's a lot of change downtown with that COVID has presented, and a lot of change and evolution. That's really exciting with residential and services and restaurants and festivals and these things. So that's the other thing on my personal portfolio. And the final answer to that question, as far as like kind of like the structure of the office that I'm in, some of the city's financial empowerment work, and some of the relationship with PPS is also in that portfolio. So broad, but certainly a fair amount of overlap that lets me stay focused and try to be helpful. What is there benefit for the group communicating the connection between food insecurity and community violence, which appears to be the primary focus of the administration? Yes, absolutely. It is a primary focus of the administration, and I think that will be very helpful on a continual basis. I had a meeting with some folks in environmental services recently, and they were referencing some studies, some data that looked at violence, the reduction in gun violence based on like community cleanups, like just basically addressing conditions in the neighborhoods. And it makes sense to a certain degree, but evidence-based models, data, all of that really helps us make a case and move forward. You see, what initiatives are being set forth for urban agriculture and building skills in relation to food production with regard to the mayor's budget? Nothing so specific as of yet. We're going to be more active, and there will be some oncoming announcements related to kind of workforce development, career training, and job pathways in general terms. And then as a subset of that, kind of either by impact area, by sector, by industry, by neighborhood, by company, by organization, we'll go from there. Kind of to Sam's point, as he kind of described it earlier. So stay on the lookout for that. Obviously lots of job opportunities in the space and ways to engage, especially I think about young and local talent in this space in ways that start to excite me. So that's what I'll say for right now. Nothing very specific there yet. Speak to deeply the mayor and Dawn, feel free to give me the.
Yeah, I was wondering if you'd be willing to give the last, if you have a quick response to Masood's question there, and then we can transition.
Can you speak to how deeply the mayor's office considered utilizing city-owned land for the purposes of improving food justice, food security, and the localization of production, in addition to job training, et cetera, via community orchards, agroforestry, silvopasture initiatives, especially in neighborhoods and regions subject to food apartheid? How deeply has the mayor's office considered it? Masood, if I'm saying that correctly, and I apologize if I'm not. It's early days. It's early days. It's okay, good. I'm assuming that means I did it. All right. See a thumbs up there. Awesome. We're still in the preliminary stages as an administration of understanding the space and what's possible there. There are some related initiatives and activities, as you all know, in different departments within the city. But the mayor's office here is in kind of like a information gathering, mental model building phase of things. And so what's exciting is that there is some of that ongoing stuff, of course, which means we can be good partners with folks throughout the city. But we're definitely still learning. I don't want to overstate that there's been like a rigorous deep dive, so to speak, at this, at this point. And I want to reemphasize that, the legwork done by this group and others for like things like the Food Action Plan and how Food Justice Fund could work are very helpful. It's really helpful for that kind of information gathering. I mean, you all did all of the work, so to speak, and that's been very helpful. Fair enough, Dawn? Good enough?
That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Kelly, I see your hand here. We need to transition to the next point, but if you wanted to jump in really quick.
Yeah, I just want to jump in and say that, yes, I have actually talked to the mayor about urban agriculture and prioritizing that. So if the Adopt-A-Lot has 10 acres of land in food production, 17 acres being maintained altogether. We've saved the city $550,000 through the Adopt-A-Lot program in the first 5 years that it's been in operation. So I like to think that we are, as a city, committed to urban agriculture and local production. So I hope that's helpful, Masood. And hi, Josiah.
Hello,
Thanks.
Kelly. Okay, so Dawn, I just want to say very briefly, thank you to the group for having me. I really appreciate the chance to share space, share a little bit of my perspective, and I welcome an ongoing dialogue. And also just want to thank you, Dawn, publicly for your service over the years and your kindness and I would say like communicativeness with me in the beginning parts of this administration, helped me understand who the partners are and your time meeting with me, answering questions and all that. It's been really great to get to know you. I imagine and hope that you're not going far, but just thank you very much and looking forward to the future.
Thanks so much. And I should have mentioned, I'm not going far. I'm not actually going anywhere. And I am also, I'll be in my role till the end of August. So just, sort of slowly transitioning, but thank you so much. And I'm obviously invested in all of this. So this won't be the last of what you see of me.
No, I know we're gonna meet here soon, like in the next, maybe several weeks or anything, but
Yeah.
I only have so many of these public decisions.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you so much. I appreciate your kind words. And I am going to hand it over, and Josiah, you're more than welcome to stay with us. We have a fantastic slate of candidates for our board, but also wouldn't be offended if you would like to finish up your day as well. So I'm going to hand it over to Mim.
Great, thank you, and thanks, Josiah. It's always good to hear from you. So we were talking about a season of opportunity, and that's what we have too with the board. We are a 15-member board, and it turns out that when we first started doing the board seats, we probably weren't very smart in how we put the terms and brought people on, because what it turned out is a lot of people roll off at the same time. So we found a way to fix that. And with this election, and I'm not going to go into detail, I'm just going to tell you that with this election, people are going to be in 1, 2, or 3 year terms, which is going to then fix things for the future so that we don't have half the board rolling off at one time. It'll be more like a third. So anyways, that's why it looks like there's a lot of people and we're fixing it. But we had a lot of good people contact us, answer the call for self-nominations, and the governance committee, of which I chair, talked about how to decide. Well, we talked about this beforehand, actually. How would we decide who, when we're vetting people, whose nominations we will accept to put on the ballot for the board? And that answer is we were looking for people who've had some experience, have been working with the Food Policy Council in some capacity. So whether it's on one of the working groups, Food and Health Equity, Urban Ag, whether integral part of the Food Action Plan, the newer Food Justice Fund. Oh my goodness, we have a long list of different initiatives and things that we've done, and a long list of people who have worked with us. So when those people nominated themselves for the board, we are very happy to put them on the ballot, and you will be hearing from them. We have, we've given people who are on the ballot the opportunity to speak. And just a reminder, please limit yourself to 2 minutes. I am really happy that so many people are here. Those of you who are on the ballot, the information that you sent us about yourself will appear, so everybody gets to read the whole thing. You're just kind of given a hi and a few words about you. Voting will happen starting probably tomorrow, going to July 20, whoops. Vote by, I think, July 15th. Sorry, I couldn't read my scribble. And the information will be going out to voting members. Candidates will be notified if they are elected by July 18th. And then there is a board meeting, regularly scheduled board meeting on July 25th, and the new board will take their seat along with the returning board members. So that was a real quick dive as to where we're at. I'm going to call on people. Like I said, please 2 minutes. I'm going to ask Zena Scott to go first because I know she has a time constraint and needs to be someplace by on another call at 5 o'clock. Then I'm just going to go in the order of who I see people, unless you send me a chat and say, oh, I also have a time constraint. So Zena, please.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for giving me the time slot and for honoring what I had requested. I'm a long-term resident of Homewood, so I've seen when we've had grocery stores and I've seen when we haven't. I have been a part of the Food Policy Council as a volunteer for the past year and quite involved over the past 7 years with the process here in Homewood with the food policy. Also am part of the group to get a grocery store here in Homewood, a co-op. Have been working with a number of people that are on this call to get the co-op up and running. So thank you for allowing me to speak. I think many of you know me and I sit on a number of other boards, but food is definitely a passion.
Thank you, Zena, and thank you for being less than 2 minutes. That's great too. I am going to call on Ruth Bender next, who's trying to take advantage of a sleeping baby. So go for it, Ruth.
Hi, thanks all. Yes, I'm Ruth Bender. I work with Adagio Health as a policy systems and environment coordinator, which is a piece of their SNAP Ed programming. Adagio Health also houses WIC and medical offices across Western PA. My daughter just turned 1, so I'm capitalizing on her state right now. I'm a transplant from Seattle, although I am in this weird position now where my new home is becoming the longest place I've ever lived. So I've been here almost 10 years. I work with our offices based out of Turtle Creek and Langley. So between the two, we cover most of Greater Pittsburgh, working in a variety of settings. But since I am seeking the place on the board that is specifically health and nutrition, is nutrition ed in K through 12 schools, early childhood, food pantries, senior centers. So a lot of community nutrition work. And my role is mostly focused on like partnership development and connecting the dots. I also serve on my local, the Leechburg Borough Council. I live in a small town outside of Pittsburgh.
Great, thanks so much, Ruth. And I should say Zena is running for one of the 3 at-large seats. Like Ruth said, she's running for the health and nutrition seat. I've got Dan Dalton next in my queue on my screen. So Dan's running for the agriculture seat. So go for it, Dan.
Thanks, Mim. Hello, everyone. I'm Dan Dalton with PASA Sustainable Agriculture. I'm a member of the Urban Ag Working Group, and I co-chair the Urban Farmland Access subcommittee of that group. Working in this region, working a lot on rebuilding urban soils and soil quality and soil health, and just trying to make our urban farms and para-urban farms more productive and trying to find strategies to make that land more accessible. And then working statewide, we help to support 2 farmer training programs, a pre-apprenticeship program that has representation here in Pittsburgh as well, and then a statewide apprenticeship program for diversified vegetable farm managers. So just hoping to bring some local perspective as well as some wider state experience to the ag seat on the board. And I'll hand back.
Thank you, Dan. Next on my screen is Adia. And Adia's running for the youth seat. Can you?
Adia can't figure out how to unmute. Hi, everyone. My name is Adia. I am the Director of School Garden Programs with Grow Pittsburgh and have worked with the Food Policy Council on many different areas. I guess the largest was probably the USDA Farm to School grant, as well as the Pennsylvania Farm to School Network. I'm on the Child Nutrition Committee as well, and have just had a really great experience and love how my work intertwines with so much of what the Food Policy Council does. At Grow Pittsburgh, we've undergone executive director transition very recently and have just produced a wonderful, pretty, shiny new strategic plan that we follow in all our decision making. And so I'm excited to have the opportunity to share that experience and a little bit of expertise in that area as well.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us today also. And next up is Laura Valentine, who is running for an at-large seat.
Hello, everybody. I'm slightly resentful that I am no longer outside and instead am in this meeting. I think everybody will appreciate that, though, given how lovely the weather is. I grew up in Pittsburgh and made a transition out of university IT many years ago now. And now I work for Cynthia, and I bring many of the skills that I learned in university IT back to the table, doing data work. I have a degree in sustainable food systems from Green Mountain College in Vermont, which is now closed, transitioned to the Green Mountain Institute at Prescott College in Arizona. And as part of my graduate work there, I was looking for a thesis project and contacted the Food Policy Council to and 412 Food Rescue and a few other people to talk about what a good thesis project might be. And I've been doing work, either volunteer or contract, for the Food Policy Council ever since. I'm also now at the Center for Regional Agriculture, Food and Transformation at Chatham. I live in the east end of Pittsburgh with my spouse and 2 kids and many chickens. And I am a Penn State Master Gardener. I used to co-chair the Edible Teaching Garden over in Point Breeze. There we go.
Great, thank you. Pastor Love, were you trying to say something there?
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, that's okay. And I'm going to get in touch with you. I saw your message. This is Mim speaking. Okay, Cynthia, I see you next.
Hi, everyone. I am Cynthia Call. I am from Pittsburgh originally, grew up in the northern suburbs, moved away for a bit and moved back probably about 8 years ago to Brookline specifically, where I live now with my partner and our 2-year-old son. I think I've been involved with the Food Policy Council in some capacities through most of those 8 years since I've been back in Pittsburgh. Was on the project team for the Greater Food Action Plan. I am also a program manager at CRAFT, which you heard mentioned, the Center for Regional Agriculture, Food and Transformation. And we do kind of food systems research, community education, and food business support in a kind of applied learning space for students at Chatham University. And in that role, I was a part of the team that launched that center about 5 years ago. And have been a part of the ongoing strategic planning process, developing out a sustainable funding portfolio and kind of broader communications strategy. So those, I think, are kind of perspectives and experiences I would be excited to bring to the board, particularly at this exciting time in the council as we embark on a new strategic planning phase and with all of this kind of change happening. So yeah, thanks so much for listening.
Great, thanks, Cynthia. And Cynthia is running for an at-large seat. Yeah, all right, let me see. Masood, you're up next on my Hollywood Squares here.
Hello, everyone. My name is Masood Sales. I am currently a project manager at Grounded Strategies in land use innovation. I bring with myself a bit of expertise when it comes to just bringing land use to a higher degree of functionality. And I have a deep passion for food systems, especially when it as relates to localization of production, improvements in food security, soil health, etc. Longtime resident of the Pittsburgh area, currently stationed in McKeesport. And I think I'll leave it at that.
Great, thanks, Masood. And next is Jeremiah Davis.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jeremiah Davis. I'm an undergrad at Chatham University. I'm focusing my studies on community development. So it's really not specifically about food, but community development is interesting in that it intersects with the built environment and transportation mobility, and food is an interesting nexus to connect all those issues. So I guess that's my interest. I don't have as much professional experience as all of you, but I have interned at a couple of places. I've interned at the Councilman Lavelle's office, at the County Department of Human Services, and currently as a city planning intern this summer. So like I say, I don't really have as much professional experience as you all, but it would be a great opportunity to learn about how an organization function and trying to really make positive change. So thank you all so much.
Thanks, Jeremiah. And so that everybody knows, the youth seat that Jeremiah is running for and that Adia is running for, it can be looked at in two ways. It could be looked at as an actual youth, meaning somebody who's 18 to 24, or somebody who works with youth, as Grow Pittsburgh works very much with youth in the school gardens. So voters will have a tough choice to make, but thanks, always thank you for people who are willing to run. I think, yes, Karen Gardner, you're next.
Karen, we can't hear you.
Yeah, you're not muted, but I can't hear you either.
Let's try that. Is
It's
that
good.
better?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, apologies. My name is Karen Gardner. I'm a current board member. I took on a seat that was vacated, so I've been on the board since the fall. I am a Pittsburgh resident and grew up in this city, and am currently a senior policy associate at the Center for Science and the Public Interest. I work on healthy retail policy. In the past, I worked for the National Young Farmers Coalition, and in that role, got to be very involved with the Pittsburgh Food Policy Council. Though what I have been most excited about as my role in the council has been maintaining connection between council members and the Driving Pennsylvania Forward Coalition, which is a coalition around Pennsylvania that is fighting for driver's licenses for all Pennsylvanians, regardless of immigration status. And I think that's it, and hopefully under 2 minutes.
Very good. Oh, I really appreciate everybody doing that. And Karen is running for an at-large seat, just to be clear. I believe I have everybody. who is a candidate who's actually on right now? Yell now if I missed you. All righty, that means we can move on to the next part, which is member recognition. And Denny, do you want to say anything about that before we?
No,
do our-
yeah, I guess the only thing I'd like to say is, we've spent a lot of time, appropriately so, at this meeting, looking forward to, the onset of having a new executive director, looking forward to strategic planning, looking forward to working with a new historic mayoral administration. And we just ask your indulgence for a few moments to perhaps look back and thank some of the people that make this place go. So I'll turn it over to Min.
All right, so first we're going to thank some of the board members who are rolling off. And I just need to tell you that one of the things that I love about working with the Food Policy Council is not only its mission, but that you get to work with really, really great people. So I want to say my privilege to say a few words about three of the people who are moving, who are rolling off the board. And it is just a few words that I'll say. So Chef Claudie Pierre, who I saw walking around somewhere. There he is, he's waving. Founder and face of the EAT initiative, Empower Awareness and Training, longtime board member and leader, or longtime member of the Pittsburgh Food Policy Council. Claudie's energy and commitment to pushing for healthy food as a basic human right is contagious and uplifting. And it has just been an honor working with you, Claudie. Blair Shane-Bourne you're still here, right? There she is, wave. She's the director of strategic initiatives at Bridgeway Capital. I don't interact much with financial people. I usually don't think I'm speaking the same language, don't know where they're coming from, but Blair is an exception. And she's exceptional in her ability to explain food business financing and to work in that field so that we can create equity in that area. And it's been a pleasure working with you and learning new terminology too, Blair. And Malik was not able to be here. Malik Hamilton, I don't think. He said he may have to go off. Is the purchasing supervisor at Pittsburgh Public Schools. And he has remained steadfast in keeping kids fed. Come COVID, come supply chain disruptions, his priority is keeping kids fed. We also can credit him with bringing the Good Food Purchasing Program to Pittsburgh Public Schools, which he worked very closely with Sarah, who's staff to the Food Policy Council. Malik was deliberate in his actions and extremely patient. And his efforts and way of doing things has paid off. I'm confident, given the commitment of these three people to the regional food system, that none of us have seen the last of them, even though they're rolling off the board. We will still be working together on these efforts, and I look forward to doing so, even though in a slightly different capacity.
Thank you, Mim. I want to add my sincere thanks also to Blair and Claudie and Malik for their many, many contributions to the Pittsburgh Food Policy Council and to our successes. And second Mim's, I think, perceptive observation that none of these folks, we hope, are really going too far away and will continue their involvement with the council in the future. But it's now my pleasure to say a few words about two other board members who are rolling off the board. And it was, frankly, an even greater pleasure to serve as a member of the leadership team with John Burgess and Mim Seidel. John, who is not with us this evening, has served as the money man, the treasurer, if you will, for the organization. And in a recent email, our secretary, Jen England, perhaps contrasting John with me, said that it was nice to have such a level-headed member of the board of directors and on the executive committee. He's been a driving force as a leader of the working group. He has a full-time job as well as programs and policy director at Allegheny County Conservation District. And I notice Ruth is modeling John's behavior because John frequently would bring a child to our meetings, which was always a nice plus. And the final thing I want to say about John is, he's the best thing to come out of Kentucky that I've ever met. And I keep wishing he would go back and run for a US Senate seat, but enough about that. The other person I get to say a few words about is Professor Mim Seidel, who I've known for years and years. In fact, it's always been around food because the first time I met her, she gave me pizza at her home before we headed over to the synagogue where I got to accept a check for Mazone. I don't even know if you remember that, Mim, but thank you for the pizza. There's so many things I could say about her, and I guess, not to take up too much of everybody's time. I've had the pleasure of serving on a lot of boards of all types over these years, and I've never served with a fellow board member, and certainly have never got to observe a board leader who worked as hard and thank God as smart as Mim Seidel. And maybe I'll just close it with another brief story. And our secretary, Jen England, figures into this as well, because a few weeks ago, I was reviewing one of the several dozens upon dozens of Pittsburgh Food Policy Council documents that we've worked on over the past several years. And this one, people who know I can't help but edit other people's work. I mean, it's just a illness. But in this case, I just said something that I actually do say a lot, which was I thought I agree with Mim. But it turns out that what I had actually typed was, I agree with Mom. And I mean, it's just one vowel off. Jen asked me if it was a Freudian slip or if it was intentional. And I'm still working that out. I got issues. She's way too young to be my mom, but it occurred to me that that's not a bad title for her in relationship to the Pittsburgh Food Policy Council, at least over the years I've been observing it. She really has been a person that has nurtured this organization just in so many ways. And again, more than as much as I love the rest of the board, she really is going to be missed. And then this was where I was supposed to do the transition to talk about another young woman that's been associated for quite some time with this organization, and that is our outgoing executive director, Dawn Plummer. And I think that, I mean, I'll just review some of her accomplishments. I mean, she, when she took over, this organization had, I think 1.5 staff members. It's now gone to 5+, but, also with any number of interns and fellows who have worked with the organization over the years. She's, ushered, it's almost like herding cats, but nonetheless did get us our transition from a leadership table of just 4 people to a diverse nonprofit board of 15. She's just grown the organization incredibly. Some of the things that will remain an important part of her legacy was really leading the process that gave us our first comprehensive Greater Pittsburgh Food Action Plan. She led the Pittsburgh Food Team in the innovative Pittsburgh Food Equity Ambassador leadership program. And what a lot of people don't realize, because she doesn't boast about this, but is how well respected our leader has been across the state and across the country as a leader in food policy. And we hope that in her stepping away, that she continues to lead in her own way. And so again, I could talk about her for hours, but I think it's clear to say that she's not only laid the foundation for a successful future for this organization, she's also built the first, 3 or 4 floors, maybe 5 or 6 floors. And I guess that's appropriate. I don't know if Josiah is still here, but perhaps it will be up to the city, if not city zoning, to decide how tall that building gets. But in any event, I would ask you to join me in applauding the work of Dawn and Mim and our other board members, and for their incredible service to the region, to the city. And I'll shut up.
I wonder if the outgoing board members would want to take maybe a minute apiece if you wanted to share something. No pressure.
Who's Claudia, are you?
Yes, I am. What's up, everybody? Hey, I'm not gonna lie to you. Definitely got a little emotional hearing some of the things that I just heard. When I walked into the Food Policy Council and getting excited about it, I did not know what to expect. I remember we had World Food Day outside. There was wind blowing everywhere that first year. There was a whole bunch of stuff going on. There was just like, that's exactly what it was. Wind blowing everywhere, papers going everywhere, people doing whatever. And I got to know some very special people from then to now. And I will honestly say, I've learned a lot and I've made friends. Like, I don't even like some people on the board, I honestly could be like, we done been to galas together. We go out, we had drinks, we, gotten dressed up, we've cried together. They've seen, so it's been a beautiful experience. So I do feel like I'm not going anywhere. I'm gonna be closer than ever. And I ask all the time, like, how do we retain the people that roll off the board? You know what I mean? And how do we get messaging out to people to understand what we do? So I think my focus will be to make sure the messaging makes sense. We got reports out of the wazoo. So now it's about leveraging those things, you know what I mean, to help people understand. So I love you all. I am not going anywhere. You can't get rid of me that fast. You know what I mean? I'm around. I'll pop up on calls here and there. And I have great, immense respect for everybody here. So thank you all for everything you've poured into me, from personal cash to just love, rubbing my back, showing me, some good old Pittsburgh love. So thank you guys. And we got a lot of work to do. So nobody better start crying right now. You know what I mean? We got a lot of work to do. And feel free to reach out to me, honestly, because I got a little bit more free time now. So feel free to reach out and really dig your fingers in deep with what we're doing.
Great, thanks, Claudia. Yeah, and we won't let you go. We know how to find you. Blair, you want to?
Oh, and in fact, we're not letting him go because he's volunteered to serve on the search committee.
He's on the search committee,
yeah,
right?
He's not going anywhere.
That's
Thanks,
true.
Claudia.
Blair.
Yeah, I'll just echo Claudia's energy and enthusiasm, and just remembering the early days. I think we joined at the same time, and we even ended up on the executive committee pretty quickly together. Claudia and Mim and John, I think we were a leadership team at some point. But it's just been a beautiful wild ride, and the Food Policy Council is going places. So I am here. I'm not leaving membership. I'm not closing the door, and I do try to do my best at translating the financial markets. That's what Bridgeway is all about. We're here to provide access, both literally and academically. So feel free to reach out anytime. But it has been a real pleasure, and I will see you all again. You won't be getting rid of me. So thank you all.
Great, and thanks, Blair. And Denny, thanks for the kind words. And feel free to, I don't mind the typos that Mim comes to mom because my students do that too, but that really embarrasses them. We'll try not to do it verbally. That's all we'll try not to do.
I will do that. Or I'll try.
So
go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say we probably should move on, but did you want to say anything else?
No, I was going to say we probably should move on. But, I agree with mom. Mim, I agree with Mim.
Danny, I just would like to add one quick thing. I'm sorry for interrupting, but we let some of the nominees speak. Not all of the nominees were able to come this evening. There are others. So I just want to, I'm dropping the list of nominees there in the chat. So I just wanted to acknowledge that there are other really fabulous folks that are running. Kiam Ansari, our communications guru at the council, put together this fabulous slate. And it shows what seat they're running, each person is running for, gives a little bio about them. And then at the very bottom, for those of you that would be considered voting members, you can click on the Vote Today button at the bottom of that page. And this page is supposed to have a note about exactly who a voting member is that's not on there. So I will get that updated quickly. If you aren't sure, we can sort of filter through them, but or you can wait until we get that language updated. But I just wanted to share that so that you guys could see the other nominees.
Okay, we have. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That was good.
We have 6 minutes and we have 6 member information sharing items. And so I'd like to call on Mim to say a few words about the White House Conference on Hunger, Food, and Nutrition.
Yeah, thanks. And it will just be a few words because although it was announced that after 50 years, there will now be another White House Conference on food, hunger, nutrition, and health. The last one was 50 years ago, and good stuff came out of that. Changes to SNAP, to WIC, all kinds of good things came out of that. Actually, the start of WIC came out of that. We hope good things will come out of this new conference. Right now, there's very little information other than the conference will be in September. However, on the agenda, there is a link. You can see where it says White House Conference on Hunger, Food, and Nutrition. If you click on that, you can scroll down and find a place where you can send in comments. Those comments need to be in by July 15th. So government programs have to do this. You send in your comments, they have to read them and they have to record them. So go ahead, make those people do their work. And that is your best way to put your thoughts in there.
Thank you, Mim. Sarah, tell us about the Food Systems Transformation Framework, please.
Yes, I will be quick. The USDA recently announced and less recently announced millions of dollars for food systems transformation. You've probably already seen a couple of these opportunities like meat and poultry processing grants. There's a little bit around, I think, certified organic training. There's some increased funding for programs we're all familiar with, but there are some funding buckets that are brand new and the USDA hasn't really had a chance to define them. They're just trying to spend this money before Congress takes it back. So we are just asking if you are interested at all in being a part of these conversations moving forward. As the PFPC staff, we're not entirely sure which opportunities will require the most attention. But for example, there's a proposal for regional business centers that doesn't really have any rules around it or suggestions for how those should be formed. That's something that we should sort of see as like a regional conversation. So, and again, just an example, there's also statewide funding for schools that we think a lot of you could potentially have thoughts and opinions about. So the only ask here is if you'd like to be involved in these conversations, and I'll drop the funding opportunities link in the chat, just to email me directly, and we're going to start facilitating smaller conversations around the opportunities people are most interested in.
Thank you, Sarah. And Mr. Bay. Oops, you're still muted. And I see you're still there. I see your name. Okay, maybe he stepped away for a minute. Mr. Gatus, are you with us?
He's not, Jenny.
Okay. All right. And then,
Renice maybe.
oh, yeah,
I
I'm
know
sorry.
Renice was.
Renice, are you here? I thought I saw her.
It looks like she jumped off.
Okay.
Renice wanted to share that the Soil Sisters Summer Camp is looking for volunteers. So if you're interested, find Renice at Soil Sisters. I'm sure she can share more about what's involved in the volunteering. We don't have a lot of details, but I know that that was what she wanted to talk about.
Yeah, and Mr. Bay wanted to mention that the Project Love Coalition is seeking a grant writer and new board members. So I'm not sure how.
I can drop his email address in the chat.
Okay, if he's okay, but great.
Interested.
Okay, and then Ms. Butte.
Alicia is not with us.
Well, she wanted to tell us that the Wilkinsburg Farmers Market started on June 16th. And there's no rush to get there. It goes till October 13th and it's from 4 to 6, but I don't know what day. Someone here know what day?
I believe it's Thursday. I'll tell you in 1 second.
Maybe we can put all this stuff in the next scoop.
Yeah, it's Thursday.
Yeah, okay. Great. All right, well, it being 5:29. Whoa, this group's good. I don't know, Dawn, you wanna send us out with a message of about 30 seconds in length or so?
Sure. Yeah, I just want to send us out with a message of gratitude, of excitement for what is to come. I am excited myself to, I've been describing the Food Policy Council as my third child, and that third child has caused me to maybe not pay enough attention to my actual living, breathing 1 and 2. And so in line with that, today is my son's 14th birthday. But I just want to say that, you know, as I put my third child aside, it is very much with care and with excitement about the work that can come. And again, I'm literally not going anywhere. And I really look forward to continuing to collaborate. So many of you I consider family and friends, and I hope that we can continue to collaborate as we have so much work to do, as Claudia said. So it's not a goodbye, but a, I don't know what else it is, but I'm just really excited for where the organization is heading, and I'm here for the next, till the end of August. If there's specific things or questions you have or you want to reach out, please do, and I'll smell you later.